Welcome to the Stand Like Men podcast. My name is Daniel Schallenberg.
And I'm Logan Ingram.
And right now we are recording episode 2. It's an exciting time. So the question I wanted to ask you is, did you ever hear of the bear versus man discussion on social media?
I did, but please elaborate.
Yeah. So it came out in I believe it was the spring of 2024. The question that kept being asked on social media was, if you were lost in the woods and you're just standing in the woods somewhere and you had a choice of either meeting a random man or a random bear, which would you choose?
And this question was directed at women.
I think it was just directed in general.
Oh, was it? Okay.
But all of the women that I heard answer it said that they'd choose the bear. Every single one of them chose bear that I heard. And I talked to my wife about it, and she actually asked a bunch of ladies at church, and we were just kind of curious at what they thought. So every single one of them chose the bear over the man, and I'm like, why are they choosing the bear? This is a wild animal that can kill them very, very easily. And ultimately, it came down to they knew what they were going to get with the bear. Like there wasn't a risk. There wasn't as much of a risk with the bear than the man. And I saw a lot of videos, because there was a lot of uproar about this, because a lot of women chose bear over man. And a lot of men were kind of offended by that, I guess you'd say. They were upset that the women would make such a silly choice, or for lack of a better word, that's a stupid choice. Why did you choose a bear? And so a lot of men got on social media and they're like, you morons, you should be choosing the man because the man is safer than the bear. And so I saw a lot of video compilations of women, like bears do bear things, and people have houses out in the woods. And so bears would be climbing up onto the porch, or crawling around in the backyard, or messing with the swings, or even starting to come inside the house. And the women would be, the woman that happened to be living there would be recording it, and all you hear is her voice saying, no, go away, get out. And the bear would be like, okay. And it just stopped where it was going. And it just turned around and just walked away, like, all right, whatever. I'm not all that interested anyway. And you're kind of scary. And they'd sound very forceful and very assertive. And the bear would turn and say, I'm not messing with that. Those videos were always followed up with women interacting with men, and the response, it was always almost the exact opposite. The one that sticks out in my mind is there was this young woman, 20-something years old, and she's walking, and she's got the phone in selfie mode as she's walking, and you can see her face in half the screen, and then there's an older man, 60s or 70s, in the background, walking after her.
I know that video.
And he looks very upset, and you're like, what's going on? And she goes, I feel unsafe. Please stop following me. And she just kept saying that over and over and over, and said, sir, I don't feel safe right now. Would you please stop following me? And the whole time he's shouting after her, saying, you need to stop and you need to listen to me. We need to talk about this and just going on and on and on. And obviously with these videos, you don't know what happened before and you don't know what happened after. So what are your impressions on all of that?
So my initial knee-jerk reaction, emotional response, is, what do you mean you don't feel safe with another man? And I'm a good man. I know good men. There's good men. And it just kind of, in my mind, it was a blanket statement of all men are evil and I can't trust all men. But that's not really it's not really the case. Because I get it. I understand bears. I've spent time in the woods, and I know what their MO is, how they behave some. And so I see what they're saying. That a bear is kind of predictable. It's either going to just go completely away, or there's nothing you can do and it's going to kill you. Mm-hmm. But with a male human, there is an almost infinite amounts of suffering that could be caused, or good, that can come from that interaction. And some of these women have already experienced some of that with another male in their lifetime. And so they already have a preconceived notion of what could happen with a male that they do not trust. And so I don't even know if we have to address necessarily that the fact that it was overwhelming that is the case. And now I think we need to address and say, well, okay, you have the option of meeting Daniel Schellenberg or Logan Ingram in the woods on your own, or a bear. Which would you choose? Well, I believe it is our duty and our job and goal to make sure that they would pick us.
Yeah.
Not necessarily men in general, because I don't think we'll ever be able to squash the true evil that actually is in the world and that humans are capable of. And I would be, it would bother me if my wife just willy-nilly trusted every male she ever met, because I understand also what we're capable of and have been witness to some of that in the aftermath of some of those situations. But I think it is unbelievably important that we answer that question, or that we hope that their answer would be us in particular, or other men that we know and that we come into contact with. Because I think if we're mentoring to younger men, or we're friends with people and surround ourselves with these men, and women can't say the same about them, then we need to evaluate that and why that is, and what maybe we could do to change that and be an influence on those young men, or men our age or older. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. The company that we keep needs to be safe.
Yes.
Is what I just heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I would be ecstatic if, the question was, okay, you're going to meet a group of bears or a group of men from Highway, or a group of men from Cersei or something. And I would love for it to be the community that we have created is trustworthy, not necessarily humankind, man as a factor of humankind around the world.
Yeah.
That's just too impossible to tackle, honestly. Yeah. And it's not even our job to change the entire world in one fell swoop. Our job is to plant seeds and to create ripples in time and throughout our lifeline that change the world eventually, or have a cumulative effect to change the world, or people coming behind us are more well equipped to change something in the world.
Circle of influence.
Yep.
Is the thing that just kept popping out as you were talking about ripples. It's like we can start now. We have a fairly small circle of influence with our listener.
Yeah, our listener.
With our listener out there. We have a very small circle of influence right now. This podcast is small, but then not just that, but like our families. Like I've got a family, you've got a family. The people we work with, the people we go to church with, like we have a very small circle of influence. But like you were saying, like our job is to develop that and to cultivate that, and to grow that circle of influence out. And then as we work with these other boys and young men and men, like the expectation is that circle of influence will grow. And then then they will start to work on their circle of influence so it can grow, so that they're working with their families and they're working with their with the people that they work with, and so that it continues to grow out until it shouldn't be a slow growth. It should be a larger growth. But like all of us working together, we all have a unified circle of influence that we are ever expanding outward.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not like you said, it's not our job to change the world, but it's our job to work with people, and then as a group, we all will change the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that too overambitious?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so. I think in worst case scenario, we fall short and we're still better for it.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. And there's also a piece that, we're not, it's not our job to fix these things and to be better and to be protectors and all of that for gratification from a woman when she's asked a question on the streets.
Yeah.
Like that should never be why we're doing this. And the fact is, I hope we get to a world where, whether she knows it or not, or is afraid or not, that it'd be better to pick us
Mm-hmm.
than a bear, because it doesn't really matter. You know, I say we're in that scenario. We run into a woman in the woods. Well, I know me, and I'm pretty sure I know you. And it really doesn't matter whether she's scared of us or not. Like, that's kind of an ego thing on our part. But the fact that she would be safe is all that really matters.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have anything to do with how she felt in that moment necessarily. That's an ego blow to our ego. Thinking, oh, I'm better than that. You know, I am safe. What do you mean? And so I think that's really important, that we don't do this for any kind of gratification and from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
We do it because we're supposed to. We do it because that's what we're called to. And there's a restaurant in South Africa, and I wish I could remember the name of the restaurant. I wish I could remember the name of the owner. There was a group sitting out on the patio eating lunch, broad daylight. The owner happened to be sitting out there, and nobody knew who he was. A guy jumped the fence onto the patio, grabbed a little girl, and was about to take off with her and kidnap her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the owner saw him immediately, jumped up, took him down, held him down till the cops arrived. And this kind of plays into what I just said about, you know, it doesn't matter what they feel. In that moment, everybody on that patio was safe because he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And they had no idea. They didn't even know he was there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't notice who he was. They didn't notice until something bad happened. And then it became apparent.
Yeah, like the people around us should be safer just because we're there.
Whether they know it or not.
Whether they know it or not,
or believe it or not.
Yeah, they should be safer with us there. And if we're out looking for them to stroke our ego and to say, oh, I feel safe around you, or I like you, or...
Oh, that feels great when you hear that.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear it.
But that's not...
But if we don't hear it, if we're out there searching for it, that kind of puts them in danger.
It does. It defeats
because
what we're doing.
We're interested in stroking our own ego than looking out for the benefit of others.
Yeah, definitely self-interest is involved in that scenario.
Yeah. You talked about, circling way back, you talked about like there are a lot of men out in the world that are not safe. I mean, and I completely agree with you, because that's why we have police. That's why we have, in practically every town in the U.S., there is some sort of law enforcement, because we know as a society that there are people who are unsafe. And what does practically every police officer in the U.S. carry?
Firearm.
A firearm. And usually 2 or 3 different methods of subduing a person that is misbehaving.
Yes.
And we all accept that because we know that there are people in the world that are not safe. Like, we know that. We know that there are unsafe people in the world. And the thing with the police is, because we recognize this as just a need of society, because there are people out in the world. I mean, turn on the news. You can't turn on the news without hearing about some person doing something that is a threat to other people. You can't do it. And so, like, we know that this is the case, which is why we have police officers. So I really don't understand why we're so offended when the women of social media are actually presenting it and actually like admitting, yes, we have a problem in our world. There is a problem, and we see it. We just haven't found a way of like expressing that, except through this. Now we have this silly question on social media, and I think what you kind of alluded to this. The issue is men took it personally.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it and saying, yeah, we do have a problem. And I mean, I can see the police force over here. I can see the military. I see all these things that are there to protect us against men that are unsafe. Instead of looking and saying, yeah, there are men that are unsafe, they took it personally. And they took it and attacked them upon themselves.
Even me knowing all of this stuff and what I just said and knowing all of that is factual, it's and how we should handle it. My knee-jerk reaction to those questions was, well, that's dumb. Mm-hmm. Or why would they think that?
Yeah.
And it's just egotistical. I mean, that's all it was. And we got to be better than that.
Yeah.
Like where our first initial reaction is to say, I understand, you're safe with me.
The best analogy I heard that kind of explained that was it was some guy on social media that got it, and he understood, and he's like, so if I were to make you chicken nuggets, and if I made you a plate of chicken nuggets, and these are the best chicken nuggets, and me being a connoisseur of all things fried food, I was interested and I was listening. And he's like, if I made a plate of 10 chicken nuggets, and I said, and they all looked the same. They all looked, they were delicious. They were perfectly cooked. They all looked amazing. They smelled amazing, and they all tasted the same. But if I said that 3 of these chicken nuggets are poisoned, would you still eat them? And I'm thinking, I'm like, I love me a chicken nugget.
Tempting.
Yeah, I love a chicken nugget, but at the same time, I'm not interested in the repercussions of that. And he's like, that is the exact same thing that these women are dealing with. They look out in the world and they may know a lot of men, like my wife. She knows a lot of very good men and a very safe men, but she knows that there are unsafe men out there. And she's like, I'm not willing to eat a chicken nugget. I'm not willing to take that risk. So in this Wednesday night class at church that we just got done with for the 3rd to 6th grade boys, like I asked this question to them. I said, hey, if I were to give you a plate of chicken nuggets and I said that 3 of them were poisoned, would you still eat them? And 3rd to 6th grade boys are like, yeah, I love chicken nuggets. They're great. Do I get dipping sauce with it? I'm like, okay, you would. Yeah, I believe that I truly do believe that you would eat the chicken nuggets. However, once you got to about chicken nugget number 7, you'd start to be curious and a little concerned. You're like, oh, which one was it?
Yep.
When you see 2 chicken nuggets left on the plate, you're like, oh, I wonder which one it was. Which one wasn't safe for me?
Yeah, it goes back to our own circle of influence. Kind of, it's our job to protect those around us, whether they know they can depend on us or not. Doesn't really matter, because that's ego driven. If we think that they need to, it's I go around. I conceal carry as much as I possibly can, and I've had the training, have the know-how, can de-escalate the situation without using lethal force. And so generally, if I'm in an area, there's probably going to be people within that area that are safer, hopefully because I'm there. But I don't walk up to everybody and nudge them and go, hey, you're safe with me, and then walk off. Like that's weird.
I feel like if you were to do that, it would have the opposite effect.
Oh, definitely. I agree. I think they would be really weirded out.
I would not stop looking at you if you said that to
That's
me.
like one of those social experiments you see on YouTube.
Yeah.
People and then hidden cameras watching people's reactions to stuff.
Don't worry, I got you.
Yeah.
It's like,
No,
I'm immediately calling the police.
We are supposed to be the type of men that can handle any situation. And it doesn't have to do with just a violent situation or a dangerous situation. That also includes when we go home at night. Is our family safe with us there? Because we are there in safe place for them to land after a long day. Are we a safe place for them to unload all of their burdens, a safe place that they can come and be themselves after dealing with the struggles of school, like adolescent schooling, spouses with work, or whatever they have going on at the house, or family stuff going on? We're supposed to be safe for people no matter where we are and no matter what situation it is.
To jump off of that, I heard this from the Men We Need by Brant Hansen, and I think he actually was quoting somebody else, but it went something along the lines of, I like to think that I'm going to protect my family from any threat that enters the home. And one day I realized that I'm the greatest threat that enters my home.
Yeah.
And like when I read that, I just stopped reading the book, and I'm just like, dadgummit. I hate that, because as soon as I heard it, I'm like, that is exactly right. Because physically I'm stronger than anybody in my family, but also I know exactly what I can say that can completely decimate my family.
Yeah.
Just completely, like just a hesitation can just ruin my wife. She walks up and says, "Hey, I love you," and I go, "Okay." Like at that point, I'm no longer safe.
Right.
I'm now a threat.
Yeah.
Or I can completely destroy her in 5 words and say, "You're just like your mother."
Ah.
Just complete. I'm no longer safe.
Yeah.
I'm no longer safe if I say that to her.
Yep.
And that's what we have to realize. Like,
Right.
it's not just being safe for people around us, but we have to be safe for the people at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have to know that they're safe around us. They have to know that we're not going to harm them. And that can be, I might argue that it's rarely physical, but emotional and mental, like
I
harm.
think that's the main one.
I feel like
physical is the one that's talked about the most
Mhm.
because it's so apparent.
It's easy
you
to
can see the
Yeah.
damage
Mhm.
immediately,
Mhm.
and it's very visible. The rest are not.
Yeah, usually it takes years before you can start seeing the emotional, mental damage.
Yep.
And all of that leads to spiritual damage, spiritual harm that we can inflict on our family.
Yep. I think it doesn't just go to the women. That's what this question, that's kind of who they asked this question to, for the most part. At least that's what got televised and spread all over social media, was the women answering this question. But if we're truly the men that we need to be, this has got to be, it's got to be centered on us, like Logan or Daniel. And it's got to be asked to people within our community, our friends, our kids, our wives, our parents, brothers, sisters, people we do business with. We're not just trying to address the relationship between men and women. We're trying to address the relationship that men have and the role we play in society, the relationships that we have with everyone we come in contact with daily.
Yeah, and it's up to us to recognize that they weren't necessarily indicting us.
Yes.
But it does need to be a wake-up call that there are dangers in this world. It's my responsibility to be safe.
Yep.
It's my responsibility to be safe for the people that are around me. And then once I recognize that, it's my responsibility to make the men that are around me safe as well.
Yes.
When I say like make us safe, we're not hunkering down to become safe. It's making us safe for the people around us.
Yeah.
It's always looking outward. Being a man is putting other people's needs above your own desires. And so my desire to feel comfortable should not supersede someone else's desire to be safe.
Yeah.
And so if I get offended at that women are calling out men in general, saying that there are unsafe men, so I can't trust any men.
Yeah.
Like if I get offended by that, that's looking at my own desire to be comfortable in my own ego. But that my comfort should not supersede their need to be safe. And so if I were to, for lack of a better word, attack them for my hurt feelings and say, well, men are not unsafe. Men are better than bears. It's like if I start attacking them because of that, then I'm failing as a man.
You saw that in some of the reaction videos.
And
that was the point of the reaction videos, to get views and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, guys, we can't just go into like contract mode where we're just like, okay, well, we won't hurt people. Well, we won't yell at our kids. We won't yell at our wife. We won't do this huge list of things because you can't. That's kind of just being in survival mode. And if you've ever been in that mode at any point in your life, maybe you're getting through a new job, your kids, any struggle, you get in survival mode, you cannot move ahead. All you're doing is contracting within, and you're either staying stagnant, and most of the time you're actually shrinking. And so we can't just fight this by not doing bad things. Like, that's definitely our goal, but it cannot be the only tactic. We have to be proactive in learning how to be better. We learn how to nurture. And like Adam was put in the garden to help the garden grow, not to keep the thorns out. Like, that's not what his his whole role was not that.
Mhm.
It was to nurture the garden and help things grow there.
Mhm.
That is our job. We nurture our wives. We nurture our kids. We pour into them. We help them grow. We help the men around us grow. Our communities grow. You cannot just contract and go on defense and call it good.
Mhm.
That doesn't work. We have to be proactive. We've got to take on the role of tending the garden,
Mhm.
which is something Brant Hansen talks about a lot.
I think it's one of the better definitions of masculinity that I've heard, like being a keeper of the garden.
Yeah.
Because it fills. Because I mean, if you're a keeper of the garden, you're present. You are nurturing to the things that are in the garden. You are protecting the things that are in the garden from things that want to harm it. You're protecting it from thorns. You're protecting it from pests or vermin or whatever. But it doesn't stop there. Like a lot of times, if you look up like what does it mean to be a man, you get the list of don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. But it's more than just a list of don't do's, like you were saying. It's pouring into other people. It's investing in other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you look at, like, I'm planting food plots for deer season right now.
Mhm.
And I had to spray a bunch of herbicide to kill all the noxious weeds and stuff. Well, think about this. If I had that food plot and all I did was spray herbicide, nothing's going to grow.
Mhm.
It's just going to kill everything. I've got to plant seeds. I've got to test soil. I've got to throw fertilizer. I've got to use water. You got to keep out the other pest. You might fence off the area to keep the deer out for a while so that stuff can grow. I mean, that's it. You're tending the garden. You can't just going on defense and trying to block everything doesn't continue growth.
Yeah. I think a lot of guys, we want to be the hero, and it's easy to see the hero. Like we see it all the time in books and movies and TV shows and video games. Like the hero is the one that fights the bad guy, and the hero is the one that beats the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like
Shuts the bomb off at the last second.
Yeah. And it's great to see that, and it's great to be that, but that's not enough. Like doing what you were saying, like investing daily in your garden is the hard part. Like, and you rarely get glory from that.
Yeah.
Doing the dishes, doing the laundry, going shopping with your wife when she needs to pick out shoes and you don't care about shoes. Like doing that, going with her and just spending time with her, like that's the hard, like that's the stuff that makes you a hero. Doing the everyday stuff is what makes you a hero.
Yeah.
It's not how often are you going to be in a situation where your wife needs protecting?
Yeah, where you get to save the day. Those happen so rare. I pray that never has to happen. Honestly, if I'm really honest with myself, I hope that never happens. There's something inside of me that kind of longs for that, to be the hero. Absolutely, like what we're talking about. But think about how much danger you're in up to that point too. Like a lot went wrong.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
For you to have to jump in and violently save the day, a lot went wrong.
Yeah.
Like, what's that saying? An ounce of prevention. I don't even remember the rest of it.
It's a good one.
Maybe that's all there is to it. You just assume the rest.
Yeah. Ounce of protection. Yeah. And the thing about movies and TV shows and video games and all that stuff, it's all scripted. It's all written.
Yeah, he wins.
It's all made up.
He wins no matter what.
Like we know what happens in the end. The hero wins. Like it's all made up. And so like us wanting that moment, sure, like I don't have a problem wanting to be the hero that steps in if everything has gone wrong. But like you can't script real life.
Nope.
You can't, like my son asks me all the time, he's like, why, like watching TV, he's like, why would they do that? I'm like, it's scripted. They need to do that in order for this to happen so that the hero can come in and save the day. Even though it's stupid, they need to do that in order to progress the story. And like our lives are not scripted.
No. Well, guys, thanks for joining us on our second episode 2 of the Stand Like Men podcast. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube if you'd like to join in on a conversation with us about what it means to be a man and to stand like men. Our verse is 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14.
Be watchful.
Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong.
Let all that you do be done in love.